All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will go ahead and convene our regular session. Welcome to Development Review Commission for February 11th, 2020. Um, let's do our preamble first. The Development Review Commission is created to hold public meetings and hearings to provide analysis and recommendations to the City Council regarding general land use policies and applications where the Commission has recommendatory power, and to render final decisions on specified applications where the Commission has final decision-making power, including but not limited to all aspects of a proposed and future development. The Development Review Commission recognizes that the creation of a desirable environment throughout the city for residents, business, and industry is a prime requisite for the interdependence of land values, aesthetics, and good site planning, by promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, and compatible development that is therefore considered to be in the best interest of public health, safety, and general welfare. Any person aggrieved by a final decision of the Development Review Commission may file an appeal to the City Council within 14 calendar days after the Development Review Commission has rendered its decision. We know we've got a number of folks here that are interested in these projects and would like to speak. Most of you probably know the drill, but in case you don't, we have some white cards on the side table here. They look approximately like this. If you'd like to speak on one of our cases, we can provide you 3 minutes. If you'll just go ahead and fill out one of those cards and get it to a member of staff, we can accommodate you. This is mostly so we have you on record. It's all part of, we have to keep everything on the record books. I will reiterate our rules, which is our American procedure is we don't step on each other's time. We don't boo or hiss or clap. So please respect each other's time, let people make their points, and you'll have plenty of time to make your points. So, with us tonight, to my right, we have Commissioner Don Casano, Vice Chair Mike DiDomenico. I am Chairman David Lyon. To my left, Commissioner Michelle Swartz, Commissioner Phil Amorosi, and Commissioner Andrew Johnson. We also have with us from City staff, Saparna Dasgupta, Joanna Berry, Steve Abrahamson, Ryan Levake, Robbie Aaron, Karen Stovall, Dalton Guerra, and I think that is it. No, that's right, no Chad Weaver tonight. So, first item of business usually is the approval of meeting minutes. We have none such today. Second item of business is usually our consent agenda, and we have reviewed these cases and decided to put none of them on the consent agenda. So we're going to roll right along, folks, into item number 3, which is our East Line Village Phase 1 project. Ms. Vaz.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. For your record, my name is Manjula Vaz, law firm of Gammon and Burnham, 2 North Central Phoenix 85004. I'm here tonight to talk about the design phase of East Line Village. I'm going to go through, since we've been here several times, I'll go through the beginning part pretty quickly. Dan Perolic is here from Opticos to talk about the design. I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of the design, and we're happy to answer any questions after that. As you know, East Line Land Ventures is a partnership between DMB, Apache Partners, Sunbelt Holdings, and Cul-de-sac. Tonight we're asking for the approval of our DPR for Phase 1 of East Line Village. I'm going to show you, as you see it, I'm going to show you 5 phases. To show you, this is Phase 1. The property is located on the north side between Apache and South Wildermuth, between Smith and River. As you may remember, just quickly, we originally had the rezoning was recently completed by the City Council in January for 636 multifamily units, approximately 29 square feet of office, 11,000 square feet of restaurant, and 7,000 square feet of gym. You'll see kind of some of that taking place, especially through the landscape enhancements, and the kind of bookable space as Dan kind of walks you through the design. And as we've talked about, it's going to be done in 5 phases. Tonight we're going to talk about Phase 1, which is Phase 1 of the commercial portion, and then the Phase 1 residential. In addition, we are building out the pedestrian spine, as you can see, that kind of goes through. It's a large pedestrian spine, but also serves as the fire lane for the project, so that will be built out. And then after, we're going to see the council in February, and then they will have, this is a recommendation to the council approval. As we build out Phase 2, the commercial and the rest of the residential, That will be done with the staff. Unless we have a major amendment, then we'll be coming back to you to show you any major changes to this design. Just to give you a sense of where we are. Just briefly, the first phase is a 5.5 acre site. Again, 3-story buildings, 180 multifamily, 13,000 square feet of office, 7,400 square feet of indoor restaurant, 3,200 square feet of outdoor dining, which we're really, I think, starting with the commercials, very important to us, and Dan will tell you a little bit about that. And this project, as you know, is built upon shared mobility infrastructure, and we can talk a little bit about it. I'm going quickly. I know a lot of you have heard this before, so I'll keep going quickly. I'm going to start here. This is kind of the phase 1 plan, site plan. I'm going to turn it over to Dan. You can see a little bit how the commercials starts here at Apache and Smith Martin. You have the commercial center towards the north along Apache, and then residential and interior, and then residential along Wildermuth. So I'm going to start from the southeast corner of Smith Martin Apache, and Dan will start with the design.
Well, good evening, Chair, and good evening, Commission. It's great to be here this evening to discuss this project with you and to answer questions that you have. It's a project that we've been really excited to be part of this team that Cul-de-sac has put together. And there's a couple, we're excited for a lot of reasons, but there's two primary reasons. Number one, and for those of you who have a design background or design professionals understand that at the point at which you remove the cars from the equation when you're planning a community, you can then start to focus on a really high quality public realm and high quality places for people, as opposed to trying to sort of manage and navigate sort of the accommodation of the car and do that at the same time. The second thing is that it's just really exciting to be providing a project that provides a choice for people who want to live along a light rail line and with other mobility choices and in a car-free environment. And based on the initial response that cul-de-sac got from interested tenants after they sort of went public with the project in November, it seems like there's a real pent-up demand for this type of living, which is really exciting to see. Starting with two really high-level points here is that we were very thoughtful from the very beginning of this process about the climate you have here, sort of very extreme climate that you have here, and how it informs both the master plan as well as how it informs the architecture. And from a master planning standpoint, you'll see that it's a very compact form, much more similar to what you might experience if you're wandering through an Italian, a Greek, or an Egyptian historic center than it is anything else that you experience in this environment. Very narrow, shaded paseos once you make your way into the project that provide a shaded passage, whether you're on foot, scooter, or bike as you make your way through the project. And that same narrow paseo also provides the buildings that provide shading for the other buildings across these narrow paseos, at least on the lower levels. From an architecture standpoint, we felt that the courtyard building types in the residential was a really logical choice to address the climate and to create a series of intimate spaces, both small, medium, and large spaces in the inner blocks of these projects that could provide either a shaded experience or an experience in the sun in these courtyards. We thought very specifically about architectural elements such as shading devices, in particular on the southern elevations and the western elevations on the upper levels in particular, as well as the design of the residential types are such that they're one room deep and they can, no, that's right, I'll do it. I'm going to go through it next. And they provide passive ventilation for the building so that the residents can have their windows open and passively cool the buildings as desired. The last point I want to make before I jump into the slides and go through these quickly is that we made a decision very early on to make the architecture very purposefully restrained. We feel that the role of these buildings is primarily as background buildings. Their primary goal is to define and activate the public spaces. And so I'm sure that was evident in, let me just go through these slides. And so this is starting at that north western corner as you step off the light rail station, and that's where the focus is of the mixed uses, and that's where the core of the mixed uses buildings, where there's a mix of food and beverage uses, potentially co-working spaces, with residential above. And so this is your view, and you can see that it's a very porous and engaging experience as you make your way off of that light rail station into the project. Just quickly kind of moving a little bit further down Apache, sort of you're starting to get views into the project and into the main paseo that connects the eastern and western edges of the site. Once again, just kind of working away a little bit further west. The buildings, there's actually fairly frequent breaks along both Apache and the Wildermuth edges to draw people into the site and provide really good connectivity for people on foot, bike, or scooter through the project. Now flipping to the Wildermuth edge, this is primarily residential. Once again, we feel that the scale of the buildings provides a very porous sort of visual experience along that Wildermuth edge. There's no more than approximately 200 feet of distance between public access to the project, and there's even access to the courtyards, the mid-block courtyards, even more frequently than that. The majority of the buildings are no larger than about 50 foot wide, and you can see in this image that there's certain instances where the buildings are even quite narrower to provide that porosity and visual break along that Wildermuth edge. This is just taking a view of that same Wildermuth edge moving to the east, giving you a glimpse on my right-hand side down the public paseo and just getting a sense of some of the shading elements that are introduced in the architecture on this south-facing elevation. And then jumping, and I'm going to do this fairly quickly because I just really more want this to be a conversation and answer your questions, but jumping into the mixed-use buildings, this mixed-use MU5 building is really one of the anchors at that northwest corner of this mixed-use node. And this is one of the larger ground floor commercial spaces, ideally targeted for a food and beverage use that can be an amenity both for the residents as well as an attraction for folks coming in from outside the project and serving as a destination for the broader community as well. This is the MU3 building. Once again, this is looking to the south, the northeast. 2 stories of residential above ground floor commercial spaces. This building has a ground floor arcade that you can see on the lower right-hand side of the building that connects from the western to the eastern side of the building to provide a shaded walkway on that southern exposure of that paseo that leads into the project area. We introduced breeze blocks as a material in this particular building to once again tie it into very much a desert vernacular and sort of some of the buildings that have been designed and built here historically. This is mixed use MU2. It's really just an extension of the MU5 building that leads into the main plaza space in the upper right-hand corner. You can see how the building where the marketplace sign is sort of spills out, has a shaded seating area that spills out onto the main plaza space. And then this is an image of what we're calling the hosting building. We decided that this building sits very much like an iconic freestanding sort of sculptural building in the middle of the main public space. And we decided that all of the amenity buildings would be designed with a broader palette of materials. We could introduce Corten, we could introduce corrugated metal, some more woods and concrete block, and so that the amenity buildings function a lot like a civic building would, where they're a little bit more iconic and they stand out a little bit more from the rest of the architecture of the project. You know, the images of the courtyard spaces, this is an internal block courtyard in the residential units. Some of my favorite views, because I can imagine sort of sitting in one of these courtyard spaces, hanging out with a group of friends. The idea is that This is an image of one of the larger courtyards that happen in the internal blocks. There would also be smaller, more intimate courtyards, decomposed granite surfaces with a concrete pad area in the middle that has a seating area, a grill, place to kind of a focal point for residents. And I think all of these design moves, both from a master planning, from a building type design, are really about fostering a really strong sense of community and making sure that the design, both at the master plan scale and this building type and architecture scale, really fosters this strong sense of community and a really strong sense of spaces that are oriented for people. Because you can imagine an image like this, if we were trying to accommodate 1 or 2 parking spaces per unit, instead of this being a courtyard space, it would probably be a parking lot, or it would be a driveway with access to garages. So with that, I'm just going to conclude my comments. Happy to answer questions and have a conversation with you about this very exciting project.
All right. Questions for our applicant? Are we all shy tonight? All right, I'll ask a couple questions if no one else has any. First one relates to the staff conditions. Let's see here. We've got a couple regarding the public ways here. Shall dedicate a public sidewalk easement or a portion thereof, 6 foot, 8 foot, et cetera, et cetera. How do you feel about those conditions?
Mr. Chairman, we're fine with all the conditions.
Great. Okay, so that's simple enough.
And I just want to say we do appreciate all the staff time in putting together all the conditions.
Okay. So from here, I want to ask you a little bit about the design. And I'll tell you, when I first saw this, my first thoughts about the site plan were not entirely positive. But now that I'm hearing you talk about it, it makes me see it in a little bit different light. I do see sort of the Greek and the Italian and the medieval planning, which, I say medieval not as a dig. It's not orthogonal. It's not strictly calculated for maximum efficiency like we usually do. And what you've done is, well, I think pretty uncommon. I can't think of a project that we've seen come through here that's planned that way. And it's intriguing, particularly because you're talking about a low car pedestrian experience. But I wonder if it will work. You're showing us here a courtyard, and I wonder, will people use it? Will people sit in it? Will people be hanging out of windows or hanging out on porches? I think you're not showing us much in the way of operable windows. Is that correct?
No, the windows will be operable.
Oh, all right. Okay. Okay, good. And as far as porches and patios, I think I've seen a couple in the images. If I were to push and prod and say, I think maybe this needs a little bit more, how would you respond to that?
So the first question I would have is, are you thinking internally on the courtyard or externally on one of the public paseos? Or both, potentially? Well,
potentially both, because I think to activate this, you really want those places to be as lively and as many eyes on the street, Jane Jacobs style, as you possibly can. So I appreciate that there is always a cost coming with that, but the way you've rendered things, you're showing these public ways with, the Tivoli lights and the shade and everything, and it's wonderful to think, yeah, people would hang out there and kids would play and whatnot. But you know as well as I do that we always draw that, and it's not necessarily a guarantee that that's going to happen. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about the sort of the design approach, and hopefully that will maybe it'll lead to further questions that you might have. But on the internal courtyards, as you see represented in these images, it's primarily, we decided that the stairs leading up to the second floor units are all currently happening internal to the courtyards, because we felt that that helped sculpt a very interesting sort of series of massing experiences in the courtyards, and it also gives the potential tenant on the person who's living on the upper floor the ability to put a little chair down and sit up in that sort of on their landing. And we were very methodical about putting shading devices on the porches that had that southern exposure and that western exposure primarily, and leaving the shading structures off of those stairs and those landings on many of the other elevations that have orientation other than that. In terms of the public paseos, a lot of the renderings that we're showing are actually on the wider of the paseos, where we actually had to accommodate a fire truck to get through the site, and so they actually had to be wider than we might ideally have liked, but they're sort of kept to a minimum. And so as you branch off of in particular, let me just go. So you can see there's a main sort of east-west paseo that's by far the widest because it accommodates that fire access. It is a fire lane, but we did sort of mitigate that width with landscaping and pushing the buildings up. But if you look at some of these smaller secondary routes and even tertiary, the third tier of routes, they're very compact. And we did decide that it was absolutely necessary to have entries into the units on those public paseos, as well as doors that take basically you can go from your unit to the courtyard out the rear of your unit as well. So each of the ground level units has a stoop, and it has a door that sort of provides that activation of the paseo. But we are thinking that primarily outside of where we've sort of opened up, where maybe a couple of those paseos come together and provide a little plaza space, sort of a small plaza, that people would more likely sort of, if they wanted a more public experience, would sort of walk the 2 minutes to one of those spaces, or go out their back door to the courtyard, as opposed to an experience where they might hang out on their front stoop. So that was just a thought.
Okay. Now, the rest of the commission might differ with me, and that certainly happens a lot. I think, well, let me first say I like your project a lot, but I think I would push and say I think it would be a missed opportunity to not soften the boundary between interior and exterior a little more. As it is now, the delineation between mine versus public is very sharp and very clear, and I'm doubtful if people will make use of those small interstitial spaces other than just come and go. And I think for those to feel warm and friendly and inviting, they really need to be a little fuzzier and a little more shared in order for that to succeed the way I think you want them to. So that would be something I would push for. I don't know if anyone else on the commission will join me in that. So let me look around now and see if anyone else has thought of any other questions or snide remarks. Commission? No, everyone's happy.
Well, there are no clotheslines outside.
No clotheslines.
So, that's the European model, isn't it?
They would dry very quickly in the summer. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Commissioner Schwartz.
So I think on some of the earlier plans, there showed some other amenity spaces outside of, maybe there was a pool on an earlier plan we saw on one of the future phases. Is the intent now that the main amenity space is what you're calling the hosting building?
In phase one, but in the later phases, there is still a pool in the program. You can see that AM2 on the phase 2 residential. That is a maker space in a pool house and pool building. So it would come in the second phase, but not in the first phase.
All right, I'm going to throw one more in there. My recollection of the landscape plan, it felt to me like you had a substantial sized tree in every kind of major triangle. But then the render you showed me made me second guess that a little bit. I know the way we render things frequently, we sort of minimize the trees so you can see the cool thing we designed. That's neither here nor there. I guess my thought here is, well, you've spoken like you're visiting from out of town, and I would say I think most Arizonans deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate shade. So if there's any place where you have a larger triangle that does not have a shade tree, I would reconsider.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess I feel like we're really fortunate because we're working with Floor Associates, a local, very talented landscape firm, and
That's right.
you're absolutely right. It's actually one of the challenges of you can generate images really quickly with a digital model, but the landscape is usually what is hard to reflect accurately without a lot of work in the model. So I would say that in some ways the model doesn't accurately reflect, and we've been working really close with Chris and her team, and absolutely we want to make sure that there's shade, easily accessible shade, both from a travel route as well as a convening or a place people want to sit, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay. Super. All right. Commissioner Schwartz.
The other question, you talked a lot about public paseo, and some of the projects we see come before us, there's definitely a big gate between the community side and the actual project. Can you confirm that all of those are actually public walkways between Apache down to Wildermuth?
Yeah, absolutely. The only all of the connections you see between the blocks that you see with the F numbers and the G numbers, I guess they're the A1, B1, C1 on the top. All of these blocks are where you would actually need a card key to sort of you'd need to be a resident to get a card key to get into the block. But all of those routes that connect in between those blocks would be open. There's no gates. It's basically a people street. It's totally publicly accessible.
All right. I think that's all we have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So now, Miss Stovall. I was trying to remember which staff member we had.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. So this is a request for a DPR for a new 1 to 3 story mixed-use development, as the applicant stated, containing 180 dwelling units and commercial uses for 2025 East Apache Boulevard. Per the development agreement, the zoning and design have been processed separately, and in January, City Council approved the zoning map amendment and PAD overlay for the entire 15.5 acre project. So the phase 1 area that is the subject of this DPR is outlined in yellow. Phase 1 includes over 19,000 square feet of commercial space spread among 4 commercial and mixed-use buildings that are all located near the northwest corner of the site. Building CM1 is proposed as a restaurant, and the first floor of the mixed-use buildings MU2, MU5, and MU3 are expected to contain a market and dining hall. The first floor of MU3 would also contain a restaurant, retail, and co-work office space. Phase 1 also includes 180 units spread among the second, and third floors of the mixed-use buildings and the 3 residential pods. The project provides a single consistent tree species along each street frontage and uses red push pistache in the parking lot. Ghost gum eucalyptus and heritage like oak are used along the fire lane, and a variety of other tree species are used throughout the remainder of the development. The commercial building at the immediate northwest corner of the project is single story, and the mixed-use buildings and residential pod buildings are all 3-story. Exterior materials vary depending on location and use, with more detailed and interesting elevations along Apache and the fire lane, which, as Beth can explain again, would function as sort of a facade for the community. I'm just going to flip through these because you've seen most of them. A neighborhood meeting was not required for this application, and we have not received any public input for this DPR request. Staff is recommending approval, subject to conditions listed in the staff report, and there are a few specific ones related to dedication of the public sidewalk, which the applicant and you've already discussed, replacement of unfinished steel with sealed or painted metal to avoid rusting metal on the nearly white buildings, and additional landscaping along walkways to improve the pedestrian experience. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Ms. Stovall? Okay, I have one. Thank you. Don't mean to take all the time myself. So Ms. Stovall, I mentioned something which, again, I don't know anyone else will share this opinion, but I feel like for this to be a pedestrian-oriented project, the cars are out of the picture, and we anticipate people are going to enjoy walking to their front door through the various winding little paths. I think that that boundary between public and private has to be a little fuzzier. I would say to be, again, all right, we said earlier, for your benefit, Commissioner Schwartz, I said in our study session that we need to try and be more explicit when we have a criticism. What would you want to see so that they are better able to predict what the commission will say about it? So to be more explicit, I think that means more square footage, which is private but is outdoor. So patios, porches, etc. Those to me are, that's an easy way to say that it's a fuzzy thing that we're talking about. So if I were to say that I personally would like it if our applicant was to work with you to get a little bit more such spaces in the project, what would your thoughts be? Do you feel like that's necessary? Are you happy with the project as it is?
So our comments during the site plan review did actually relate to what you've mentioned. We had requested more openings, windows, doors, especially along Wildermuth for the residential pods. One of the concerns expressed by the applicant is that we do need to remember what is on the south side of Wildermuth, which are industrial uses, and they don't necessarily want what's at the exterior of this development, again on the south side of Wildermuth, to disrupt the residential activity inside the courtyards. So that is something, again, that we had recommended, and again, that was one of the concerns expressed by the applicant. They did work with us to, add some trellises so that we could have some higher growing shrubs and vining plants along Wildermuth. They did add a little more architectural interest. So we accepted, how they responded to that.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Okay, folks. Yep, that's a Lewis. All right, folks, we're going to come to our public comment section now. Again, if anyone wishes to make comment on this, we can provide you up to 3 minutes to do so. I'm going to use my phone to help me time. And when we get kind of to the end, I'm going to kind of do this, which means please wrap up in a sentence or two. And if you don't do that, I'll get a little bit ruder after that and go knock it off. First person I have here is John Christoph.
Thanks, Commission members. My name is John Christoph. I live down the street at the intersection of McClintock and Apache. I'm also on the Transportation Commission. We saw a version of this presentation earlier this morning, and I think I speak for most of the commission members when we say that we're very enthusiastic about the project, and I'm personally very enthusiastic about this from the standpoint of I have been living car-free in Tempe for the last 3.5 years, and it is extremely gratifying to see that there are developers who are interested in catering to people who don't want to be motorists in the city. And frankly, we need a lot more developments like this citywide, not just from the standpoint of we need more housing because we need more housing, but also from the standpoint of climate change and sustainability. You may or may not know this, but in Arizona, there's an unusually high percentage of our CO2 emissions that comes from our motor vehicles, principally because our electricity generation comes from a lot of hydroelectric dams and a lot of nuclear and low emissions fossil fuel sources. But if we want to become a decarbonized state, we really need to start thinking about alternatives to the car for people's daily needs. And this is the kind of facility that can start to enable that for more folks. If there are questions, and I think I do hear some questions, and we heard this morning there were some questions about, is that going to work? What I would invite you to consider is the Mercado neighborhood in Tucson. We toured that with the Congress New Urbanism Group about a year ago in February. And it has a very similar layout to this development. The chief differences are it's single-family units rather than multifamily units, and they are owner-occupied rather than rental. But it is incredibly useful to see that happening and working as well as it does in Arizona with our climate, with our car dependency, with our surrounding built environment. It's a beautiful neighborhood. There are lots of people who live there who are very satisfied with the experience. And I think that were we to try and bring something like that to Tempe, we'd have a lot of satisfied people here as well. So I invite you to consider letting this project move forward with the considerations you're offering.
All right. Mr. Kristoff, can I hold you just for 1 second, please? First of all, thank you. I'd like to ask you a question, if I may. And I wouldn't be offended if you said you preferred not to answer, but you mentioned that you're living car-free.
Yes.
If you'll indulge me, would you tell me what modes of transportation you're using and the rough percentages? Just, I'm curious.
Yeah, so I use the light rail literally every single day for my daily commute. I get on at the McClintock and Apache stop, and I ride 2 stops to the University of Merle, and I work near there. I also use the buses regularly. I take the 81 north to the marketplace, usually about 3 or 4 times a month for groceries or pharmacy runs or going to PetSmart, get cat food. And I have used other buses throughout the Phoenix area regularly. My next most used one would be the 72 route because there's a modeling group that I participate with in Scottsdale. So I take the light rail to University, transfer at the stop there, get the 72 north, across the river, and it's about 30 minutes up that way. The only thing that I will say is a hindrance to that is that the headways between trains and buses are quite infrequent compared to other cities. But things like the bike share system, like Grid, for example, more than makes up for that. I use Grid for pretty much every other trip I'm taking that's not light rail or bus. I do occasionally use Lyft only for emergencies, and I would say maybe do that once a month, if that. Does that answer your question, sir?
It very much does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Johnson?
Just one more quick follow-up.
Yes.
You mentioned the Mercado neighborhood in Tucson, and I'm familiar with that, but I guess I didn't realize that is it car-free? Is that what you're implying?
So there are some units within the Mercado that have garages, but there's only a handful of them, and they're close to the sort of the entrance exit area from the site. Most of the units are, or at least a large fraction of the units are car-free, and all the ones that we visited with CNU were car-free.
Interesting.
One of the ways that they work around that is by having, similar to what you see in this slide actually, is there's a designated parking area near the entrance to the complex, and it's adjacent to the commercial amenities they have there. And it's centralized at one location so that you're segregating the car traffic from the pedestrian traffic. And as far as we were able to see, it's pretty effective even during rush hour heavy traffic.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. I think now we're finished. Thank you. Keep calling you back up. All right. Anyone else? All right. We'll close the public comment there. And we'll invite our applicant to come back up, and you may respond to anything that you've heard.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, I think we've had a nice conversation. We certainly appreciate your support. We tried to do what we can. I think the design speaks for itself. We're really excited about it. Certainly understand your point about fuzziness. I would say I think what we're trying to do is give people sitting on their porches a part. This is really a lot about community. So, I mean, I guess we could. But I think that people would like living here. When you walk outside, and in any your kind of villa situation, you get to hang out with your people. You get to hang out with your community. And
Okay.
so, but we would look for your support. We're super excited and look forward to moving forward. But we do appreciate, I do want to say, like the amount of time that Ryan and Saparna and Karen have taken with us, I can't say enough how much we appreciate their time.
We like them too. Well, hold on a sec. Hold on. So if I was to push you just a little bit and ask about a little bit more in the way of patios in those internal courtyards.
So I totally appreciate what you're saying. Well, we disagree with that.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
Well, help me out. Explain why.
About the patios, because the front porch, I mean, I think Chris actually is a better, Chris Flores, she'd love to talk to you about it. I think you do know Chris. Wait, can I go back to him? Oh, I need to go back to, I'm like, where's my slide? Yes, Brian, can you? Let me talk a little bit about it, and Chris can talk a little bit about the design of kind of the courtyard. Just in terms of how this is done. I think they have this is right here. So, I think people do have a little bit more private space. And Jeff, you want to, okay, Jeff can talk more about the way the patios are designed. Remember Jeff Barron's from cul-de-sac?
Thank you for the question. So when we publicly announced the project in November, we had about 60 different articles, and we were tracking the response to your question about demand. So there were more than 300 million people that looked at the project, and there was a deluge of comments that we got, and they were overwhelmingly positive. And the two things that people were most excited about in the public response from the thousands of people that messaged us wanting to move in were around the community and around the environmental sustainability of the project. So we heard so many people saying that they want to live in a different type of community that supports shared amenities, that they didn't want to have a tiny little patio just for themselves. They wanted to have a beautiful grill or a beautiful shaded seating area, so higher quality, but still in a human scale, intimate design. So the intention for these courtyards is really to bring people together, and we recognize that this is not what everyone is looking for. Our intention is really just to say, for the people that want something different, we have tried really hard to offer them a unique experience where maybe 30% of a normal development would be shaded. For this project, nearly half of it is shaded. And for people who want community and who want to live a multimodal lifestyle and they want to have mixed use where they can walk to a park and have the retail and personal services that are kind of conveniently located, that's really the intention here. So we very much were thinking about how do we service the needs for people to have that space, and we handled it in a different way, but the goal was to just provide a unique option.
Okay, so I want to push a little. Is that all right?
Please.
Okay, so I appreciate that a lot of people wrote to you, but I don't necessarily think they know what they're talking about. Bless their hearts. Now, I know that'll sound arrogant, but we have plenty of apartment complexes that have open space with shade and seating and a volleyball court that no one will sit in, right? And there have been studies that have been done about, cities and public spaces that do and do not get used. And there's all kinds of data that's been categorized on seating and shading and all these other things, but yet some get used and some don't. And there's that kind of X factor. So I'm not trying to say that I'm sure this won't work, because I don't know. What I want you to do is tell me more explicitly, what is the draw? What's going to work here? Because if this was my project and I loved it and wanted it to succeed, my thought would be that it should have a little more semi-public space. I could be wrong about that, and I'd like you to help me understand what is the draw that's going to make that work? What's going to keep people in those spaces rather than they just walk through to get to their door?
So as part of the design exercise, we worked with leading architects, but we also did a lot of user research. This included a couple hundred user interviews with people that expressed interest in an alternative lifestyle like this, including people that were already living in either a co-living place, some kind of co-housing arrangement, or roommates, as well as people who simply wanted to live in a pocket neighborhood of detached single-family homes, but they liked the community there. So we actually were mostly precedent-driven in forming this type of communal environment. And what we looked at was places like the Mercado in Tucson, but also pocket neighborhoods in the Pacific Northwest. We looked at places in Mexico City, in Copenhagen, a few places in Germany, and some places in Asia to try to draw from what are the places that were most successful in giving the residents an area that they actually use. To your point, not everywhere that you create space actually gets used. That's why we worked so hard to get nearly 50% shade. So our perspective was that people won't use it if it's not shaded, or not nearly as much. And so that was one of the big drivers. And we accomplished that by having these 3-story buildings in compact courtyards. And so it's actually the buildings that provide a lot of the shade. So that was one of the main things, as well as drawing from kind of the insights at the more micro scale from different precedents that Dan from Opticos can speak to, where we wanted to find a thoughtful design architect. So Dan's firm Opticos, they sort of coined the term missing middle housing. And instead of picking a more traditional single-family architect or even really a larger scale architect, we specifically wanted a firm that specialized in this rather unique density, because we feel like it does actually have different design needs than other types of projects.
All right, fair enough.
No, but
Ms. Floor.
Hi, I'm Chris Floor with Floor Associates. I was thinking about this. We also did the Agritopia project at Gilbert, if you guys are familiar with that. And while that's single-family housing for most of it, there is some, we're working on a new phase called Epicenter that will actually be apartments. That's just about to start construction. But if you look at the rest of the neighborhood, although it's a neighborhood of single-family housing with garages, the garages are set back and the houses have front porches, and everybody in that neighborhood rides a bike or walks, and the cars you see in the neighborhood are the ones that are coming to Joe's Farm Grill, Bar None, and the up-and-coming beer garden that's going to be happening in the next year. So I kind of think that this project has some of those same qualities, where this courtyard that we're looking at is the front porch for all of the units. This is where you come to your front door through this courtyard. So you would engage with your other neighbors in the courtyard by just coming back and forth, in your daily business. And in that courtyard, we're also creating amenities like the outdoor living room spaces or water features or outdoor kitchen spaces. So instead of having those on your back patio, those are communal together as the courtyard space is. And then on the rest of the site, we have several places like Apache Plaza, the Center Plaza, the park, the Spline. All of that is open to the public. That's not just for the community. It's open to all of us that would like to visit, all the different restaurants that we hopefully, there's a lot of restaurants and retailers that they're looking at that we will be a draw for those of us that don't live in the community. So I think it provides a different level, or several levels of engagement, whether it's with, in your own unit, with your neighbors, or on the larger scale as a community. And maybe, I think where we have the gates is to enclose those courtyards, much like you do in other communities around, where there's some areas that are more secure just from a security standpoint. But I think there's plenty of public space that's open throughout the site. So I just wanted to point that out.
All right, thank you. All right, thanks for bearing with me. Any other questions for our applicants? You guys are all very happy and quiet, it looks like. All right, so we'll thank you. All right. Commission, what are your thoughts? Commissioner Amorosi.
Thank you, Chairman Lyon. I'm real excited about this coming in down on that end of Apache, especially activating the Smith Martin light rail station that's down there. I applaud the pedestrian scale instead of seeing the high rises that we always see along Apache. I think that's going to be quite welcoming. And even the melding of the Mediterranean with the Southwest elements is a real nice, unique feel. I disagree with you respectfully about them not activating the space, because I think all the front doors are facing each other. So I know from my neighborhood, you're going to see those people and get to know the people that are walking their dogs. And since they ride bikes, they're going to have that shared, element together. And you're just naturally, according to your schedules, are going to be meeting your neighbors. You're not just going to walk by them when you see them 300 days out of the year or whatever. I think it's not like it's set aside. They do have a set aside public area, but I think this area is going to really be utilized by the people that want to live in this sort of environment. So I'll definitely be supporting this project.
All right, well said. Commissioner Johnson?
I'll be quick. I think it's a really thoughtful project and a really great start to the larger development itself and hopefully a movement away from individually owned automobiles. So I applaud this whole project. I think it's fantastic.
Commissioner Casano.
I just want to say, all the years that I've been involved with the city, we've been trying to redevelop Apache. And we see where it has developed down by the university, but now we've got it out onto the eastern edge, which is going to bring all of that together. And I think I asked Manjula this last time, well, what if they don't like no cars? She said, well, we got other plans. But I think after this, seeing this and how it's set up, I think it's going to be a real example of what can be done, especially in areas like Apache Boulevard, that's going to actually create a demand for people to go there, not to avoid it, only use it as a drive-through area. So I will be supporting this project.
All right. I'm not seeing anyone else eager to jump in there. So I've talked about being a little more explicit, and I think have my fellow commissioners been fairly clear about what they like about the site planning aspects of this project? Yes? Okay. So I will say, just maybe for our audience benefit, we've been talking a lot about the new urban core master plan. And to me, this project is the aspirational goal of all that. That density is going to be showing up in the city of Tempe, and we want to provide places where people don't have to have a car. And, well, I feel like I'm thoroughly outvoted, so I will trust that you've got it right. I'm happy to support this project, and I thank you for your hard work. It looks beautiful. So, Commission, how about a motion of some form? Vice Chair DiDomenico.
Chairman Lyon, I am pleased to move for approval of East Line Village Phase 1, PL 190059, with the conditions of approval as drafted in the staff report.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that motion.
All right, motion to approve with conditions as written by staff from Vice Chair DiDomenico and seconded by Commissioner Casano. All those in favor by a raise of hands, please. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. All right, so let's move on now. We have the Lewis residence.
Good evening, Commissioners. I appreciate your time this evening. We were here last month, and we were granted a continuance after hearing some of the feedback about this project. So today, I'm here to present a revision to our original plan. So again, I am Danny Niemla with Ardian Construction. I'm here representing the Lewis family. And this project is on 921 South Roosevelt Street, Tempe, Arizona, and it's for a use permit for a second-story walk deck. So here's an aerial view of where the home is in relation to Roosevelt and 10th Street. So this is the site plan for the project. We are going to be adding an addition to the rear of the home, and as I have shown on the second slide here, this is where the walk deck will be. One change that we made from our original plan, based off of the feedback that we had heard, was that we did reduce the size of this deck. We did basically split it in half, so the overall size of the walk deck is now about 270 square feet. This is the front of the home. Really no, you won't be able to, can't see the walk deck from the front of the home. This would be the east elevation, which is the rear of the property. As you can see, we did make a few revisions as well.
One thing that we did was we did increase the height of the railings on both the north and the south side of the walk deck to provide some privacy for the occupants of the walk deck and also for the adjoining neighbors. And that privacy railing will be constructed with metal and wood. And the way we designed it is that it will have gaps in the wood that will be hidden from each other, but it will allow airflow and also allow planting of plants to grow over it if the homeowner desires. And the only area where we have a open railing is at the rear of the property, as you can see on the rendering here. This would be the north elevation. So as you can see, the rendering that I have here is a perspective from the northern neighbor's yard. So as you can see, you can see very little of the walk deck, and also with the railing being at the height that it is, you won't have a clear view into the adjoining yards. This would be the south elevation of the project, and again, as you can see on the staircase, we did enclose the railing. It'll be essentially a solid railing that won't have any sight lines through it, which goes up the staircase, and then the landing itself will be protected with the view fence as well. Here were a few just inspiration photos for the project. The one in the lower right-hand corner is a similar design as what we have planned for the wood and steel fencing above the walk deck. This was in my original report as well, but these are the other neighboring properties that do have a second-story balcony. So I do have those listed here, and I was able to capture some photos of these from the street driving through some of these properties. And that concludes my portion. I would like to introduce you to Lori Lewis, who would like to speak about the project and the situation as well.
Thank you to the Commission for giving us the opportunity to work with our Tempe neighbors to make some of the changes to our original proposal and plan. We took note of the suggestions made at the last meeting and have made design modifications to address these concerns. We attempted to meet with our neighbors on both sides of the house, Karen and Kathy, to share all the modifications. In the past, my son Brett communicated with Kathy via Facebook. Unfortunately, she decided to block him. He was no longer able to reach her, and his attempts in person were ignored. Brett and our contractor, Dan, were finally able to meet with Karen, however. She chose not to participate in any resolution. Concerns regarding lighting on the stairs illuminating towards Karen's house were addressed with built-in low lights on the house directly to the stairs. A privacy wall was added on the stairwell extending all the way up to the terrace, as well as on the north side and south side of the patio to prevent any view of the neighbor's house from the patio. The original proposed terrace was reduced in size by more than half. In addition, to add additional privacy, we are adding another row of cinder block to the block walls on each neighbor's side. Britt is a young professional who right now is traveling for work for 6 weeks and has lived in the neighborhood for many years, just a few blocks from this house. He would like to live in his dream home and immerse himself in this community. Brett eventually would like to establish a family there, just like his neighbors did many years ago. A few blocks away at 56 with 13th Street, the homeowner constructed a huge 14,000 square foot home with a deck and a rooftop pool. We are asking for a modestly sized terrace, which does take into account the privacy concerns our neighbors that our neighbors and provides us the opportunity to view the stars at night, the holiday fireworks, and the beauty of the winter nights. We feel strongly that the design changes we are proposing address the concerns of our neighbors, and we have afforded them the opportunity, as suggested by the Commission, to meet with us and participate in this process. Brett seeks to be a good neighbor, considerate of the unique and historic aspects of Tempe, and we hope you will appreciate our efforts in this design and approval process. Thank you.
Okay. Could you hold on one sec, Ms. Lewis? Do we have any questions for our applicant? Okay, we've had them here before, and we had concerns. No one wants to ask any questions? Okay, so we'll thank you.
Okay.
All right. Robbie.
Good evening, Chairman Lyon, Commissioners. Robbie Aaron, Community Development. I'm going to make my presentation somewhat brief. It's very similar to the last one. And I will go over a few changes that have been made. Again, use permit to allow second-story walk deck for the Lewis residents at 921 South Roosevelt. And as a reminder, the item was continued from your January 14, 2020 meeting. Site, it's about halfway between 9th and 10th on Roosevelt. Here's the site plan. I do want to point out, as Danny did, that they have reduced the size of the walk deck from 511 square feet to 270 square feet, so about half the size. Use permit criteria. There will be no significant increase in vehicular or pedestrian traffic, as this is to remain a single-family use. Any nuisance arriving from emission or odor, that will also be the same as the single-family use, which it is right now, so there's no intended increase in that. And the applicant has also added the walls above the current wall height to help mitigate any privacy or noise issues. It has also suggested increasing the wall height around the entire property, which would also help mitigate that. This does not contribute to the deterioration of the neighborhood, as they will be upgrading the home as a whole. Its compatibility with existing structures, it will remain a single-family use. It will remain, for all intents and purposes, a single-story use, as the walk deck will be on top of the roof of a single-story home. And you will not be able to notice the walk deck or the addition from the front of the home. And adequate control of disruptive behaviors are, again, a single-family use, so that remains the same. There is no neighborhood meeting required for this, although the applicant did meet with their or attempt to meet with their two adjacent neighbors. I do want to clarify one thing. I believe they were able to meet with Kathy, but unable to meet with Karen. I think Lori just kind of flipped those. I know Kathy sent me a brief outline of their meeting that we provided to you as well. To date, staff has received 17 comments in opposition, and then as we also provided to you, we've also received 9 comments in support of this. The concerns of opposition were privacy, noise, the overall design of the product, and a possibility that it'll be rental Airbnb. I think that the applicant has stated that this is going to be somebody's home and not rental Airbnb. Staff recommends approval subject to the standard conditions as outlined in the staff report. And if you have any questions for me, I am here.
No questions? Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron. I should afford you the respect you deserve. Forgive me. All right, so folks, public comment time. I have many cards. If you wish to speak and have not provided us a card, please avail yourself of one of those and get that card to our city staff member. We'll get you accommodated. Once again, I'm going to try and keep us to 3 minutes apiece. Let's respect each other's time, and we really do listen. So let's hear what you have to say. First person I have here is, does this say Coral Keen or Carol Keen maybe? Coral, come on up to the podium. We need each of you to please state your name into the microphone and your place of residence, just so it's on the record.
My name is Coral King, and I currently reside in Scottsdale, but I was a former resident of this neighborhood and neighbor to Karen Morrissey at 917 South Roosevelt Street. So I'm speaking on behalf as someone who frequents her house regularly and has fond attachments to her backyard and spending a lot of time there. When her and I were neighbors, I had my daughter next door, and she ultimately passed 19 days later, and next door was a huge refuge for me, as you can imagine. And having that privacy was something that, to this day, I will value, just having that space to process and having Karen as a friend to lean on. And when she told me about this new project, the first thing I thought of was just having that space that I can go to. I have a key to her house. It's literally like my second home. She's the older sister I always wanted, and finding her as a neighbor. And then when I moved, I'm still not far. I'm not far. I'm in Scottsdale, so like I said, I do frequent there often, and it is concerning to have not just the addition and the invasion of privacy. And I've not once have seen Mr. Naimela at the property next door, not once. It looks like a vacant house. No one has been there. If he loves his property so much, why hasn't he been living there? Business, whatnot, come and tend to the yard, just show some interest in the property. Whereas Karen works in her backyard. She tends to her home. She does, it's a ginormous backyard, and she does all her own gardening. She doesn't just live there. It's a sacred place to her, and it is for me too. And I'm here in support of her and not wanting this additional invasion of space and noise and just presence that isn't there now. It's a really open, wide space, and it's peaceful and it's calm. And I ask that when you vote for this permit, that you would consider how she feels, how the neighbors feel, how people who visit like myself feel, and just consider how you would feel if your neighbors were asking you the same thing. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Any questions?
No questions, thanks. I think in general we're probably going to keep going unless somebody stops and says they have a question. We'll keep rolling through. So, Mr. Philip Yates, please.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Philip Yates, and I am the representative for the Riverside Neighborhood Association. And I am definitely against this particular project. It is going to be inviting for a lot of noise, and is going to definitely create a problem with regard to the parking area. I mean, it's just, the street is going to be really have a whole lot more cars parked alongside of it. And living right across the street from a two-story building that has decks that have had parties over and over again, this is just another example exactly of what this would be inviting to. I realize this has been reduced in size to be more of a likable kind of a structure for the area. However, it is still going to be it's going to be Partyville up there. And it's not something that you like to look at from the street. The stairwell going up to the deck itself is really not appealing. And I'm just going to keep it short and leave it at that. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I think we're okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. I have a card here from, I believe the name is Ira Domsky, and they wish to have this read into the record. Forgive me if I got your name wrong. I live in the neighborhood of, I think that says 921 South, 921 South Roosevelt, and oppose current plan for this project. The second floor deck is an encroachment on the neighbors and sets a bad precedent for residential development. Okay. Kathleen Palmer, please. Ah. Ah.
So I have provided some pictures. I did take 6, I only meant 4. Hopefully you can share them. And I'll just tell you them. My name's Kathleen Palmer. I live at 925 South Roosevelt. Right next. My name's Kathleen Palmer. I live at 925 South Roosevelt, next door to the Lewis residence on the south side. And by the way, I am in complete contact with the Lewises and Mr. Nemela. Anyway, the first slides show kind of a line of sight. Last time we met, someone asked about a line of sight. And these photos indicate a line of sight that sort of simulates the view from the deck. The first one is from my roof, simulating how much you can see of my neighbor's yard, which is the opposite, which is what he does for my yard. And the second 2 photos are me simulating taking pictures from the deck, from their deck, so that you can see how much that they can see from the deck of my patio and my side yard. So the Lewis resident rooftop patio deck design just doesn't fit in our neighborhood, and it doesn't fit for lots that are only 50 feet wide. It's very narrow, and the houses, you tend to be a lot closer together. This type of building design is not in character of the neighborhood, even though there are some second-story balconies. The next 2 photos are a site from my back door to the proposed deck. And I've written some graphics on there to show you how it would look from my back door. And I've reviewed the changes with the Lewises and made to their deck plan, and it still presents the same problems: an invasion of privacy and too much noise. It's still a large deck, the same size as my living room and my dining room, and it still has the noisy and very offensive outdoor staircase right across from my back door. It's even closer than the deck because it's only 6 feet. It's 6 feet from the property line. And the west end is open and not blocked by privacy screens and provides no privacy to my patio area and side yard from the people on the deck. In the future, the owners could decide to remove the privacy screens because I don't believe it's really permanent. And there's a picture of the yard that shows, after they build their addition, how much of the remaining yard is. It's 90 feet, and it's 4,500 square feet. So they have plenty of room to build a patio in their backyard. And the last 3 slides, when we met to discuss the changes, Brett didn't really warm to any of my suggestions for moving the staircase and making the deck more a modest, smaller size at the rear of the house, or just having a patio at ground level in their backyard. But apparently they're going to have a patio in the backyard too. And they were not swayed by any of the reasons I gave against building the deck. In the end, they did not remove the staircase, which was a deal breaker to me, and I told them that was really offensive. It's an outdoor staircase. The noise is going to come down, and every time they go up and down. And not only that, it looks like a warehouse, That's what I'm going to be looking at.
Ms. Palmer, can you sum it up?
Do you have any questions for my photos?
I will say that this is actually a very helpful piece of work. It's very useful for illustrating your points. What's that?
I said I'm sorry I couldn't share it with everybody.
All right. Well, it looks like we don't have any questions, so we'll thank you, Ms. Palmer. All right, moving right along. Allison Saltford.
Hello, my name is Allison. I live at 730 West 13th Street in the neighborhood. I'm here talking on behalf of the Lewis's proposal. Next month is Autoimmune Disease Awareness Month. 50 million Americans suffer from an autoimmune disease, and Brett Lewis is one of them. Autoimmune diseases are not curable, but they can be managed to increase the quality of life of those who live with them. Amy Myers, MD and New York Times bestselling author, specializes in autoimmune disorders and has found a key aspect of managing flare-ups is relieving stress, specifically the chronic stress that most of us accept as an everyday occurrence. Another of Dr. Myers' findings was reducing an individual's toxic burden, often caused by environmental factors. This might not seem related to seeking approval of a small outdoor deck, a deck already reduced by over 47% from 511 square feet to 270 square feet to help compromise with those speaking out against it, but it is related. The EPA says the average American spends 93% of their life indoors. Additionally, the EPA indoor air study found indoor pollutants are often 2 to 5 times higher than typical outdoor concentrations. Getting outside more directly helps with Dr. Myers' advice for those with autoimmune disorders to reduce their toxic burden. Additionally, there are a host of other health benefits going outside that can assist in the management of those disorders, including reducing inflammation, lessening anxiety, lowering cortisol, the stress hormone. All of these benefits are amazingly advantageous to those managing autoimmune disorders, and Mr. Lewis should be allowed to create an outdoor space conducive to not only enjoying the beautiful Tempe climate, but also a space beneficial to his health. I understand there's been concern that privacy will be lost due to being able to peer into backyards. I can assure everyone that peering is not in his nature. I'm not sure what sort of juicy secrets the neighbors are worried about, but I'm certain that Mr. Lewis could not care less. He sticks to himself, his work, and his music, and is far too busy managing his own life to bother being worried about his neighbors. Additionally, that concern has been addressed by the addition of a privacy screening on the deck and around the staircase. This privacy screening would be 72 inches high, the same height as the current cinder block perimeter fence, which is obviously considered to provide enough privacy by the neighbors as they have not proactively sought to add to the perimeter wall height with their own resources. It has also been offered to increase the height of the cinder block perimeter fence by approximately 8 inches, giving the neighbors additional privacy funded by Mr. Lewis. Why these neighbors think their privacy is so special is perplexing, as the second-story deck would not be the first in the neighborhood, not by a long shot. Should those houses lose their outdoor privileges, or do they propose that all second-story windows in the neighborhood be boarded up? The Tempe Human Services Needs Assessment Report of 2017 found that reflections on the greatest advantage of living in Tempe included people who care, Tempe is a beautiful city, it's a small enough community, you know your neighbors. I implore the city of Tempe to approve Mr. Lewis's deck, and I also implore those against his deck to live up to the reflections previously mentioned and to be people who care instead of those who seek to stop the dream of a first-time homeowner. Be the people you want to have more of in Tempe. Get to know your neighbor, build community, care about each other. I, for one, can think of no better place to do that than a beautiful, safe, private backyard deck.
Thank you. All right. Riley Price.
Hello, my name is Riley Price. I live in the neighborhood as well. I live on 13th Street, 421 13th Street. Lived in the neighborhood for a long time. Sorry, I didn't prepare much of things, so I just have a couple points here. To me, it's very important to have people like Brett Lewis remodeling homes in Tempe, because there's a lot of development that's going to happen. It's inevitable. Home ownership is going to turn over and the neighborhood will change. And I want to see more residences like Brett's and my own. I own my home and I take a lot of pride in it. Brett is actually a roommate of mine. He's lived with me for several years. I know him very well. He's a good friend of mine. He is a model neighbor. He's the type of person that you want to live next to. He wants the deck because he was wanting to maximize his outdoor space and obviously see the beautiful views of Tempe that we have and the mountains that you can see in the distance. He was concerned with expanding the house and losing some of that yard, even though it is a big yard, but that's what was so important to him, was the yard. And I can completely relate to that. I love spending time in my yard. And I think his neighbors to both sides can also relate to that. They take a lot of pride in their yard, and I think they can relate to him wanting to take pride in his property. Someone mentioned him not living there. He doesn't live there because the property is still in this sort of state, but he's still living in my home, which is just down the street.
But one thing I would point out is that Brett doesn't want to look into someone's yard, just as he doesn't want someone looking at him in his rooftop patio. So the privacy goes both ways, and I think that's important to note. But really what's important is there's many of these rooftop decks in the neighborhood, and Kathy pointed out that the narrowness of the property, but in fact most of the rooftop decks and second story buildings that I noted in the neighborhood as I was biking around today are on the same width of property on either Wilson or Roosevelt. So it's really going to be the same sort of thing, and a lot of them are facing back into the backyards. So the precedent is really set, and it seems unfair to deny him that ability when so many other people have been awarded that. Especially just to the east of this house that he's wanting to remodel. There were 6 townhomes put in that are all 2 stories, and a developer was able to come in and put in these 2-story homes, and in my opinion, they're very ugly and intrusive, and his design is modest and conservative, and I want to see more of that and less of the development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Carol Campbell here. You've written something, but also checked I wish to speak. Do you want this read, or would you like to speak? All right, come on up. All right.
My name is Carol Campbell. I live on 1225 South Judd. I've been in the neighborhood 40 years. I just want to say, and I can't believe I wrote this before anybody else spoke, I'm tired of the sob stories. I am tired of, I need to do this to pencil the project. I need to do this, you know what? What happens when these projects go through, and it doesn't matter, life happens. They build the project, and within a year, it's sold, they've made their money, and they've moved on. So you can't use a sob story to give somebody a use permit or a variance because it doesn't hold up. Once they're gone, they've taken their money and left, and we, as the residents and neighbors, have to deal with this problem the rest of our lives, or as long as we stay in the neighborhood. This deck, when I look at the pictures of this deck, this is not an integral part of the house. You can't even get to the deck from the inside of the house. It's an added extra. It's nice. You could have a major party up there, and they wouldn't even have to go into your home to get to the party area. It's just really odd that anybody would design this way. We have enough party frat houses in our neighborhood already. We don't need any more. This plan is incredibly invasive for the entire block's privacy. They will have, they've changed it, so there'll be some blocking. I don't think it'll be enough, and I still think it'll be loud. The views of every yard through their windows, I don't know about that. You saw those pictures, and I'm not sure how that's going to work with the extra fencing. But I look at how you talked about fuzziness in the last project. Well, really? What kind of image does this deck give you when it's not even part of the house? To me, it doesn't give me a feel for a private homeowner using it. And I think you need to take that into account. Sound is going to travel very well over those walls, and it will disrupt neighbors' peace as well as their privacy. I ask you as commissioners to disassociate the homeowners from the project and see how in the world this deck could possibly enhance our neighborhood. I just don't see it, and I hope that you'll vote no.
All right. Thank you. Let's do that. And lastly, I have Karen Morrissey.
Last time I did that, my mom was
That's
really
right.
impressive.
Yes. See if you can beat your record.
Yeah. Okay, anyways, I'm Karen. I'd like to ask the DRC to vote no on the use deck permit for this property. I live to the north. Let me clear this up. I work for Boeing. I'm very, very busy. I have some additional responsibilities put on me. I'm in charge of Europe for all exports for many programs. This just happened this past week. This happened this week that I was contacted through my neighbor that I have to meet with Brett in the next 3 days. That's not how my schedule rolls. It will never be how my schedule rolls. Number one, work. Number two, family, friends, and all that. Okay, so in my opinion, a 0 square foot deck is what's needed for this type of yard. It's 50 feet by 200 feet. Anything they put on there, it's not peering into my yard or the neighbor's yard. It's having a 12-foot stand and being on top of the stand and being able to see everything. And no matter what, they want to put a picnic basket, temporary wall on there. That's temporary. As I said, these people, when they're up there, can see into my bedroom and my bathroom. Okay? And I didn't meet with the property owners. I'm sorry, I can't put a price on my privacy rights and the noise issues. I'm simply not willing to bend at all. So I'm hoping you can also hear the neighbors, the surrounding neighbors. 17 of them have taken their time out to write in and talk about this. They're all concerned. It's a single-story, small, quiet neighborhood. All of a sudden you want to throw a big party deck up there? It doesn't match. I went through the 5 elements of why it shouldn't be for the use permit last time. I know you guys know. I've, as I said, lived in my house. My house is in my will. It's not flipping over. It's going to remain a historic property. We were put in the 1945 after the war. Family of 4 could fit in a 1,000 square foot house in a 10,000 square foot yard with a victory garden. And that's what all of our houses are designed to do. It has no business being a part of a middle of a block having a big party deck. So I hope you can vote no on the use permit. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, I don't have any more cards in front of me. Is there anyone else that wishes to make comment? Seeing none, I will close the public comment and we'll invite our applicant to come back up and you may address the things that you've heard.
Thank you. And I appreciate the feedback and did want to respond on behalf of Brett and Lori Lewis. So one thing Riley did mention, Brett is living in the neighborhood and the house is not occupiable as it is right now. The house did have a flood in it, and so currently the home doesn't need a remodel in order for it to be occupied. But he is planning on moving into the home as soon as it's remodeled. And also, as Riley mentioned, Brett loves the city of Tempe, and he loves the neighborhood. He's lived in the neighborhood for several years, and he would love to live there long term. And I personally believe that Brett and Riley and others of their age group and generation, they are the future of Tempe. And I believe change is sometimes hard, but the reality is that there is going to be some change in development to neighborhoods as time goes on. One concern that I heard was the privacy screen. She felt like that it may be removable. It is going to be built to be the part of the permanent structure, and it is not going to be made removable. One other concern that there could be an increase in noise and parking. I strongly believe that the addition of this second-story balcony will not bring additional, any additional traffic or parking concerns to the neighborhood. As they have mentioned, all these yards are large. If someone in that neighborhood wanted to have a party, they could have a party without a walk deck. So I don't believe that the walk deck itself will bring any increased vehicle traffic. And then I did want to, I'm not sure if my slide is still up, I don't think it is, but one of the renderings that I had on there did show the perspective of the size of the walk deck. We did reduce, let's go back here. So this is an overhead view of the deck. It shows some patio furniture up there, and certainly you could have a group of friends over and have 6 to 8 people up on the deck, but it's not going to be a large party deck. As Riley had mentioned also that Brett would like this deck to just a place where he can, sit out and enjoy the evenings, the cool evenings in the winter, and also, for his health, just a place to relax and enjoy the neighborhood. Lori, did you have anything you'd like to mention?
I know it's been brought up many times about the concern about this house being sold and being a frat house, a party house, a Airbnb, a rental. That is none of our intention. The intention was to be able to find a house that my son wanted to live in, that he could enjoy and be part of a community and to live there. Our intent is not to rent it, not to sell it. I mean, I was in my first house for 24 years. We're not people who move around. I mean, we tend to get settled in and we stay where we're going. And, no different than any one of my neighbors on Brett's side deciding they're going to rent their house and become an Airbnb. There's no guarantee. I mean, we're moving into that neighborhood to be a neighbor. And, and the same should be said for them. They should just be a neighbor and we should all get along and just kind of move forward.
Okay. Any more questions for our applicant? All right. So that does it then. Thank you. Commission, do you want to share some thoughts? Or are you all minds made up and just want to vote? Commissioner Casano.
I just want to reiterate what I said when this came before us in January, that there's a huge yard. It was mentioned here, and I probably should have asked the applicant, are they going to put down a patio as well behind the house? But somebody mentioned in one of the comment letters we've seen that was the intent. I still think that you could do everything you want to down there. You can enjoy the outdoors. The only thing you won't have is be up 10, 12 feet in the air. And whatever that affords you, the great benefits it may afford you, I think could be received down below with great landscaping and create your own habitat on the ground level. So therefore, I cannot support this use permit.
Okay. Other thoughts? Commissioner Johnson?
Sure, I'll give my 2 cents. So I think that when we recommended that they go back and make some modifications to address the original concerns from the neighbors, my opinion is they did do that. There's one that is probably not addressed, and that's noise. But again, I think that you're going to get that either way if you have a group of people outside. As far as the rendering is concerned with the stairwell on the side of the house, I don't think that is the most pleasant thing to be looking at. But also, I would think that a tastefully placed tree might break that up a bit and make it not such something that is a little more attractive. I think it does fit the use permit criteria. And in general, I think an addition of this nature, with or without a roof deck, is something that would be beneficial to keeping it single family in the neighborhood. So in general, I'm going to be supporting the project.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. I apologize. We're having a little sidebar there. All right. Other thoughts?
I'm going to echo what Commissioner Johnson said. I do appreciate the extra time and effort to go in and rework the plan a little bit. A lot of powerful arguments on both sides, both in our first hearing and again tonight. I appreciate some of the passionate discussion about the quality of life issue of having this raised deck that provide views right up until the time that the neighbors on either side build another deck or a second story and block your view. But nobody's promised when we buy a residential property that things are going to remain exactly the same on either side or surrounding us. I've lived in a lot of single-story and two-story homes in Tempe. I've lived in a single-story home where I had surrounded by two-story homes that peered down into my yard, and somehow managed to still enjoy, my home and the quality of life. So it's interesting what our expectations are when we move in. I'm surrounded by single-story homes now, but tomorrow one of my neighbors could decide to blade the house and build a two-story. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with two-story homes. As a matter of fact, in this neighborhood and in the surrounding neighborhoods, this commission on a regular basis argues for more patios and windows in these dense projects that we tend to see redeveloping these areas. So as a commission, I know that we like windows on second stories and third stories. We like roof decks. We like outdoor amenities. We like party spaces where people gather and create a sense of community. So, this is a tough one, but I do commend staff and the applicant and the neighbors who got together and tried to improve a tough situation, because that's the reason we asked for a continuance in the first place. And I'm, this is a tough one for me, but I think at the end I'm going to support the use permit.
Other thoughts? Commissioner Schwartz.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a unique position in that while I have read the case the last time it was around, I was not present, sitting on the active commission at that point. I agree in that I have seen a lot of movement and moving towards an agreeable solution for everyone here. In looking at some of the views here, they are looking back at what they wouldn't see now that a privacy screen is there. And I guess my last point is there's nothing saying a party won't happen on the ground level. This is adding minimal space within the site for something that would already have a noise issue.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Amorosi, you want to jump in?
I commend Mr. Lewis for making the compromises. That was the whole idea, because it was unacceptable when he first presented it, and he did cut it in half, and he screened the north and south so that there isn't a direct view into the yard. It is kind of obtrusive being right up against the fence, this view that we saw from, so that's kind of, I wouldn't want to see that in my backyard. It doesn't look too pleasing, but it's addressing the sight lines that they were talking about. So this is a tough one that you put me on the spot for. For me, I know other people are putting second-story decks on their houses, but I go back to the character of the area, and I don't know if these lots in this neighborhood was meant for this sort of deck as a second floor. I don't know. I don't think it follows the character of the area, so I probably won't be supporting this.
Okay. So that just leaves me, and I want to throw my 2 cents at it. I apologize. You all have to listen to me so much tonight. I supported this project the first go, and I thought it was great. And I want to piggyback off what Vice Chair DiDomenico said. We tried to protect people's property values, but there are limits on what we can do there. When we had Jefferson Town Lake come through, which was a apartment tower on the north side of Tempe Town Lake, there was a individual from the community that came and said, well, I spent a lot of money buying a unit in this other building right next door because the view is so great. And this building will block 80% of my view. It will destroy the value of my unit. And, you know, our response to him was, I'm real sorry, but, you know, we can't stop this apartment tower from going in because you thought you had a lock on this view for time and all eternity. You know, we know other buildings are going to show up. And I lived in this neighborhood for 8 years. No, it was only 6. I apologize. Only 6. And I love this neighborhood, but it's going to change over time. It's going to get a little thicker and a little denser. And I think we need to ask ourselves, what are we willing to have show up? Given that this house is going to get remodeled, you know, I don't know that's a must for this particular house, but a lot of houses are going to get remodeled. What are they going to become? I mean, like's been said, we get these 2-story townhomes, and we've had projects that are just so awful show up that you know, I personally have not supported, and they've still been approved. And I just think compared to that, this is a really good project. It's an attractive, appropriate, contemporary home. It's not mimicking in a fake way, and the low deck was nice. As concerns the use permit itself, the 5 conditions have to all be addressed in terms of what the deck does as opposed to what they could do in the backyard anyway, right? If they have a patio on the ground, you can still have parties. You can still make noise. And the fact that that is 12 feet off the ground isn't going to change how much noise comes over, because that 6-foot wall you have does almost nothing for sound. You'll hear every conversation of people standing on the ground. So the other factors for me, it's the deck itself doesn't change it. I think the design was frankly much better before the wood screening. And I feel some sympathy about your privacy. But all I can say, like Commissioner Vice Chair DiDomenico said earlier, is we can't guarantee that things are never going to change and that you're never going to have a 2-story neighbor. So I think this is just things marching on. So I will be in support of this project. Having said that, how about we take a motion?
Chairman Lyon, I have one question for staff. Mr. Aaron, if you, because we're voting on a use permit for addition of a 2nd story, if this was granted, is there any protection that the screening on both the stairwell as well as the deck cannot be removed? In other words, would that in some way be a violation of the stipulations? Or does the use permit travel separately than the design?
Commissioner DiDomenico, members of the commission, this request is as per plans submitted. Okay. And so if there was a change in the future, it is a change that would go against the use permit itself and therefore would be a violation.
So someone who would notice that physical change to the structure could simply call code enforcement and mention that the screen wall is no longer in place, and that would trigger a review at staff level.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to add another thing too, that if this deck was expanded, that would also be an intensification of the use, which would require them to come back. So I want to clarify that. You couldn't just expand the deck without coming back to DRC for another use permit, essentially.
Thank you.
All right. So I think I would like to hear a motion regarding this case. Does anyone have a feeling about this case? Commissioner Johnson.
Sorry, let me find it real quick. I move for the approval of PL 190295 Lewis Residence.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Motion to approve from Commissioner Johnson seconded by Vice Chair DiDomenico. All those in favor by show of hands, please. Opposed? Motion passes 4-2. Thank you. All right, so that leads us to our last case for the evening, folks. By the way, everyone that showed up to speak, thank you. I appreciate when people get involved and speak your opinions. It's part of our process, and I'm glad that you do it. All right, so Tempe Farmers Market. We'll invite our applicant. Come and tell us about your case.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, I'm Darrell Dutton. I'm the applicant, and I live at 807 South Wilson Street. And here's my wife, that is Stacy Dutton, and we're co-applicants, I guess, although maybe only my name on it. I wanted to address, there was a memorandum that came. It was from the Tempe Police Department, which is sort of a relatively kind of neutral-based letter. It just listed a number of concerns, and I spoke with Officer Conway at length about all of the concerns. The concerns were basically regarding the following of the rules of my liquor license, which we activated in October. So it's sort of a very there's very little wiggle room when it comes to the Arizona Department of Alcohol regarding how I can operate this business following the 40-60 food permit or ratios. So most of the things, including the function of the business and how it functions as a grocery store, and a security plan relating to all of those, are kind of highly regulated by the Department of Alcohol. In addition to, I have also a secondary liquor permit from the city of Tempe. So all of those things are in place, and I've already went through kind of a rigorous process that has documented the layout of the space and what the intent of the space was, which I know in the letter it did mention that we were only thinking about putting alcohol in smoothies, which isn't, necessarily an accurate depiction there, because it was all disclosed to the everyone involved to get to the approval of the liquor permit. One thing that I did notice in there too was you said there was no similar businesses known in Tempe that features a grocery store, alcohol service, and live entertainment. Now, Whole Foods actually does have a bar and is a grocery store. There's also a couple other examples outside of Tempe, such as the Phoenix Public Market and Lucy's Healthy Market, that have similar scenarios. They don't necessarily have the live entertainment component, but the reason we were asking for that is we've been in existence for over 10 years and have hosted many different type of events, even in the parking lot, because we have a use permit to do so. And we've kind of already dabbled in live entertainment to a degree, but this is just so that, we were trying to have like jazz on Friday nights, so it's not exactly like we're trying to recreate an 80s mosh pit. But I was just going to say that at the end of the letter that the officer compiled, he said, we did speak at length, and we've kind of agreed that probably early next week we're going to meet and go through and customize a security plan, which would be acceptable to the police department. But it also, in that, at the end of the letter, it says that there are no current violations being investigated by the Arizona Department of Liquor or Tempe Code Enforcement, or incidents or calls to the service. We manage our business well, and we'll continue to do so. It really is kind of up to the owner or management to maintain the rules, and we've done. I did prepare a letter because I don't like the public speak, so I'm just going to read it. It's short. I did make a copy if I need to enter it. Give you one, but could I read this? Is this okay?
I'll be my guest.
All right. So regarding the application, I said, my name is Darrell, and this is my wife, Stacy, and kind of wanted to begin by thanking the Commission for the thoughtful consideration of our application. We've been Tempe residents for 34 years, and since we came here to attend ASU in '86, Stacy has an art degree and has worked for the Arizona Commission on the Arts for the past 25 years. I have a business degree and a Master of Fine Arts degree. I worked as a regional director of operations for a corporate entity for 20 years prior to opening Tempe Farmers Market. So our combined backgrounds in art and management have allowed us to successfully manage Tempe Farmers Market for the past 10 years. The market provides quick and easy access to quality local health food options to the downtown Tempe neighborhood. We have a smoothie, coffee bar, vegan deli, and a dine-in menu. And over the years, we've provided support and donation to local causes, including ASU, Tempe schools, churches, and organizations. We've also hosted many community meetings and outdoor arts and music events, and all of which have been managed safely and successfully, because there's never been an incident under our watch. Now we'd like to be able to add the element of live entertainment component to the market, and we believe that the addition of this platform to showcase local artists and musicians will enhance the quality of life in downtown Tempe. And the fast-paced growth and competition within Tempe's urban core has been very challenging of late. And our economic viability and our survival is in jeopardy without looking towards diversification. Thus, our application to get the liquor license, thus now to have live entertainment. We have thousands of social media friends, which I did discourage from showing up tonight, and neighbors who support us and are excited about being able to listen to local music and see local artists work in a neighborhood venue. We have their signatures and support right here, which I do have. I only brought about 100 if that's something you want to have or submit or look at. And they believe in Tempe and love the tight-knit community. And again, thanks to the commission for their consideration, and also Dalton for all of his help in getting this application together. And I guess I better take some questions.
I have one right off the bat.
Okay.
Is it true that the hours of operation for the live entertainment will be 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily?
Well, to be realistic, it would be more likely, like, as an example, the dining room lounge, which is actually on the drawing. I don't know if you have anything. Oh, okay. But there is in that area, actually currently, the dining room lounge area, there's a section of the dining room that's always open when the market opens at 8. The hot food service ceases at 11. And then that area of the lounge then stays open until 2. So what would happen now would be, like, if you're going to have jazz on Friday, it would be probably from about 8 to 11. It's 8 p.m. to 11. That's a long jazz set. But as an example, it's realistic things. I was told to basically list and ask for everything, because if we don't ask now, we can't go, well, hey, you know what, we're going to have a march against Monsanto. I mean, whatever. But we're going to have a march against Monsanto at 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on a Sunday, and we wouldn't be able to have that band play in the same location without getting a special use permit. So it was just basically that, being real. And also there was one other letter of support that came, and I forgot about it. It was a letter of support by Merrill Darcy, but within that was a couple concerns, which was, can we have live music outside? No, you cannot have. This has nothing to do with live music outside. You'd have to have a special permit for that. So that kind of answers that question. And also, how much amplification? Well, that's realistic. I mean, we would have to maintain the right decibel level per code, which I believe is 55 to 65, but it also is related to ambient noise. And since I'm next to the railroad track on the east side and University on the north side, the ambient sound level is a roar. So most likely that if you were going to have a jazz set, you're not going to have a jazz set that is making your ears bleed. It's a realistic request to just have some local musicians. And a good friend, Walt Richardson, would be here otherwise involved, but he is in big support of this. So just throwing that in there too.
Okay, thank you. Other
Okay.
questions for our applicant? Commissioner Kasana.
Mr. Dutton, looking at your site plan here and showing where you have the live entertainment, you can't have much of a group in there, can you?
No, but we have. It is designed to set up about three, maybe if you really squeeze four people.
That's what I thought.
It's sort of
Yeah.
I'm kind of going to date myself, but it's a Bandersnatchy size space.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to clarify. It's not a huge space you're asking for here. And you've shown nothing other than the small patio at the front of the building.
Right.
Or was that
Yeah.
that'd be the west end of the building, and it doesn't look like it's got a...
The approved patio, however, if there's, in the future, there might be a patio over there. If we can make that adjustment, it's okay with city.
But based on this, you're not going to have a huge band and all of this noise.
It'll
and
never be
everything else.
outside.
No, that's right.
It can't be.
Yeah.
Because if it is outside, I lose my permit.
Yeah, that's right. And you're already complying with the 40-60 split based on your...
Yes, and thank you for that question, because I did put together a little chart, which is kind of handy, because it gives kind of an example of before Whole Foods opened, to that we were lucky that we planned a year in advance to actually make a move. Otherwise, we would be already closed, and all of our 12 employees would be gone, which would be terrible for the neighborhood. And also, these are a chart, but I also brought a printout from our POS system, which I'd be more than happy to officially give you open right to at any given point for audits. So,
I think you're okay.
You're fine. Thank you very much.
Very thorough. Any other questions for our applicant? Commissioner Amorosi?
Thank you, Chairman Lyon. So I'm not familiar with how the liquor department, you show this. Do they look at your stats every 3 months, once a year, 6 months? How does that work? Is there a probation period?
I have it. It's a liquor detective advisor, and he said it's random. You just have to have your books ready. If you don't have your books ready, you're fined, and then you better get them your books, or then you lose your permit. So it's not really a lot of wiggle room.
All right, that's good. And then from the drawing, do the customers that want to hear the music walk through the grocery store to get to the, or is that exit also an entrance?
It's a secondary entrance as well, and exit.
Okay, so do you close down the grocery store when there's live entertainment, or are they at the same?
It's combined and open. Let's say as an example, if somebody was going to play at 8, the actual food service goes until 11. You can see where the kitchen is. And so food service is until 11 now. We're considering going longer because right now after 11 we still serve food. We just go over there and get them the grab and go items from the deli if somebody's hungry, because feeding people that are having alcohol is actually just a smart move.
Okay.
So we're our own commissary. I know it seems odd. Why would somebody want to have a grocery store and a lounge? It's kind of I know it's a hybrid, but it's a smart hybrid because if you're together with a group of your friends or family and you go out, we can satisfy pretty much everybody. We have your vegan daughter-in-law, we have your beer-drinking nephew, and we also have a kombucha-drinking cousin. Whatever you need. If you need vegan jerky, regular jerky. You can get those snacks and eat them in the dining room lounge area, or you can order a hot panini or a hot curry soup. There's a little something for everybody. So you're not necessarily relegated to like a bar atmosphere, which is like, well, you only have this limited amount of things. We have a whole food store.
And is it a full bar, or is it just beer and wine?
It's a restaurant liquor license, so it's a full bar. Yeah. So mixed cocktails. We also offer faux cocktails, which are alcohol-less drinks because it's quite popular. So.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. All right. Mr. Guerra.
Good evening, Chairman Lyon and members of the Commission. My name is Dalton Guerra, Planner 1 of the City of Tempe Planning Division. I will briefly run through this presentation. Mr. Dutton covered a lot of points that I wanted to clarify anyway. So the site's GID. It's located in the southeast corner of Farmer and University. It's got CSS to the west, GID to the east. There's a site plan that we've already kind of looked at already. The floor plan, they've indicated where the live entertainment will be in that small corner there. It's an existing building, so nothing changing to the elevations. No neighborhood meeting is required. At the time that we published the report, there was no public input, and we received a letter that he had discussed already that had the concerns about noise, which we are mitigating with a couple conditions regarding the hours, and no entertainment allowed outdoors either. We also received the letter from PD, Police Department, Tempe Police Department, which we are also addressing, and they've been in discussions with the applicant as well to mitigate those concerns. So just to super clarify, there's a couple conditions here. All required federal, state, county, and municipal permits and licenses and clearances shall be obtained, or the use permit is void. That covers anything with the liquor licenses from the state or county. Music, sound, or live entertainment shall not violate the City of Tempe noise ordinance. So there's a number of conditions in here that mitigate any issues that were brought up by City of Tempe Police Department and or members of the public. Our recommendation is to approve subject to the conditions. There are 3 unique conditions of approval that we've already kind of touched on. Inside only, no live entertainment outside. Live entertainment to cease at midnight Sunday through Wednesday and 1:55 a.m. Thursday through Saturday. So those are weekend hours. And they do have to submit for a security plan within 30 days of the approval if it's approved. And like I said, they've been in contact with PD already. So have any questions if you have any, or if you have any questions on here.
I know you've basically answered it, but I just want to ask one more time. You're comfortable that you've addressed the concerns that the police department has?
Yes.
All right.
And through the security plan, we're confident that the police department can handle anything that comes up.
All right. Other questions for Mr. Guerra? All right, we will thank you. All right, let's do public comment, folks. We're almost there. I have 2 cards here. Anybody else that wants to fill one out? Now's a good time. Karen Morrissey, it says here that you'd like this read into the record. I live near Tempe Farmers Market and fully support live entertainment at this venue. And Mr. Philip Yates. This is a great place for local entertainment in Tempe. Music needs a new place to perform. This location is ideal. All right. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Oh, okay, now hang on. We got to do it the right way. Come on up. Now, sir, when you're done making your comment, I'd like you to get one of those cards and fill it out because we have to write it all down and stuff. Just tell us your name and where you're from. And
my name is David Klein. I live at 416 West 9th Street, and I support Daryl doing this. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, short and sweet. Thank you. All right. So I think I will now close the public comment section. And Darrell, if you want to come back up for a second, you can respond to all this positive support.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody, and your $20 will be in the lobby.
Yeah, well played. Hey, okay, so I have one question for you first. Yeah, just because I like calling people back up. You can sit now. Okay. I'm kidding. So are you comfortable with staff's conditions, including the 12 a.m. cessation, Sunday through Wednesday, et cetera?
Yep.
All right.
Yep, and we'll make sure that the security plan is, work with the officer to get it resolved as quickly as possible within probably less than 30 days if he's available.
Super.
Okay.
For the record, I think you're awesome, and I hope this business stays forever. All right. So, Commission, your thoughts? Commissioner Amorosi? Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman Lyon. I just want to say I appreciate how thorough the owner was in his presentation. Got me to understand the whole thing and alleviated any concerns I had with the police letter. And I will be supporting this permit.
Vice Chair DiDomenico.
I want to echo that I think this business is a Tempe treasure. Mr. Darrell, you and your wife run a fantastic, unique business that I think is just one of a kind and the kind of thing that hopefully will be supported long into the future. I'm still confused as to what Tempe PD's concerns about the use permit. It seemed to be a little bit more about the alcohol, the liquor license that had already been granted, which isn't really what's in front of us today. Without the letter, I think this would have been a consent agenda item, and you would have saved 2 hours of your life today.
But to be fair to the officer, you just wanted to make the point that we're make sure that I'm on board and aware that I'm not just trying to like become a down and dirty bar. You know, it
Yeah.
would be Roadhouse like in the old school.
Yeah, which is exactly what your liquor license application was all about, and those, you know, that ship has sailed. You know, you have that license already. You know, we're about to see at Tempe Marketplace, you know, at Vestar at a couple of their other properties already has it, and if it's not already at Tempe Marketplace, will soon be, where you can travel around the common area with alcohol. If ever there was an example here in Tempe of a shopping district where you have kids and adults and you have every kind of store possible and people walking around with margaritas and draft beers, that's it. Oh, and live entertainment in the courtyard. So we're doing it on a grand scale here. It's nice that you're doing it on a small scale. So I'll be supporting.
Anyone else want to chip in or give us a motion? Commissioner Casano?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to get us to a motion so all these fine people can go home. I would like to move for approval of Tempe Farmers Market PL 190327 with all the stipulations.
Do I hear a second? Second. All right, motion to approve from Commissioner Casano, seconded by Vice Chair DiDomenico. All those in favor by show of hands, please. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. All right, Ms. Dasgupta, can you enlighten us regarding our next meeting, its location, and the items on that agenda, please?
Certainly, Chairman and Commission members. February 25th is the Tuesday, February 25th, the next DRC meeting, and it's still going to be at this location at the Tempe History Museum. We have a preliminary subdivision and condo plat for Hudson Lane condominiums. We have a request at 55 West Hudson Lane. We have a development plan review for a Salad and Go at 1804 East Elliott Road. There's a request for use permit to allow operation for a vocational school for Unitech EMT Vocational at 1241 West Warner Road. A request for a use permit standard as well as a development plan review for University Lofts at for three-story attached dwelling units for 5 dwelling units for University Lofts at 800 West University Drive. And we have a request for a planned area development and development plan review for 4 dwelling units at 430 West 7th Street Apartments at 430 West 7th Street Apartments.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned. Thank you.